this time, can we all please rise for posting the colors and the singing of the national anthem?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
It gives me great honor to welcome our UTPA President, Dr. Robert S. Nelsen.
Would all the veterans please rise? Please stay standing. Would everyone who has a family member who was a veteran please rise? Look around. Look how few people are seated. Look at how many of you are standing. There is something very unique about this valley, and you can sit. And that is the patriotism that is in this valley. And I don't think most of America knows about it. They don't understand the sacrifices that the valley has made over the years, whether it's in wars or whether it's in peace. But the people in the valley are extremely patriotic. I was at UT Dallas, as you just heard, for 19 years. In those 19 years, I said the Pledge of Allegiance twice that I can remember. 19 years as a faculty member twice. Corpus Christi, I said it 4 times there in 14 months because I was getting closer to the valley. Here, I probably say it 3 to 4 times a month. I go to the Rotary, I go to school boards, I go to city council. Wherever I go, people pledge allegiance to the flag. That is very unique. It is something strong about our culture in the valley and what we mean. The valley has been able to reach out and has been willing to sacrifice for the good. I'm proud to say that we finally got declared a military-friendly campus. That's a big deal. And I want to thank all of the people who helped that happen. Are we doing enough for our veterans? There are 1,600, well, almost 1,700 now, that have graduated from Pan Am since the war in Iraq began. We can't do enough for our veterans. We have to reach out and help us because they sacrificed for us. And we have to acknowledge those sacrifices. And the most important thing we have to do is say thank you to them. Thank you for standing up. I don't care what you feel about an individual war. I don't care what you feel about the military-industrial complex. I don't care. These are real human beings who stood up for us. And we need to thank them and salute them. And today, as the president of UTPA America, I can say to all of you veterans, we are grateful for your sacrifices. Thank you for helping our country. We believe in you because you believe in us. So thank you very much. And let's celebrate your day today.
Please help me welcome Anthony Beltran.
Good morning, good morning. It's November, it's Veterans Day, and I had to think back, what is the purpose of Veterans Day? To observe our heroic departed with solemn pride, to express our sympathies through peace and justice in the councils of the nations, to give thanks and reflect in prayer for the freedoms we are given. Now, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, as we all know, but today is my Valentine's Day, because this is the day I get to express love and support to my brothers at arms. And if it weren't for a few civil wars, I may not even be here. But thanks to some historical Texas heroes, I am. You see, my family didn't cross the border. The border crossed us. And through the generations, we've been able to build our own little piece of Americana. So for that fate, I'm grateful for the sacrifices that our soldiers make. These are the stars that give me the privilege to stand here today. Last year, I had to go on and give thanks to the registrars, and again this year, to the registrars, to the Veterans Service Center, admissions, the ladies at admissions, who have really helped me out, and financial aid. Thank you, Texas, for an education. Thank you to those gatekeepers here that have helped me come back, return to a life. And speaking as a veteran and a student, I have to give thanks to the university, specifically the College of Social Sciences. I did graduate with a double major, psychology and criminal justice, an achievement that I still glow from. The psychology department, Dr. Croyle and a few others, have really helped me piece together some clarity as for my status as a veteran here in the Rio Grande Valley. The study of psychology has helped me. It's helped me understand who I've been, where I am here now today, and where I'm going, how I'm going to continue to grow. I'm trying to reach for understanding, and I'm always happy to give it. You see, VA may claim that I am disabled, but my heart says I'm not. And Toby Keith once said, you know, I may not be as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Despite any physical disability, my spirit is strong. I may not be able to run 2 miles in 12 minutes like I used to, but I can run 3 in 22. I can drag my body across an American football field without the use of my legs, and I can carry a man on my back if his life depended on it. Matter of fact, if y'all weren't looking, I'd fly away from this podium too. And you may not be able to see my red cape, but I swear there's an S stamped on my chest. Dr. Nelsen said we're real people, and I'm trying to be more. I'm trying to be superhuman. We're your superheroes. You know, Tony Stark said, I am Iron Man. Veterans are men of iron, men of honor. With the military training that we've received, it makes sense for us to pursue law, politics, criminal justice degrees, and that's what the social sciences has been able to provide for us. A pathway, some guidance and direction. We want to continue to serve the public, to serve the greater good. Many of our veterans do in fact pursue criminal justice for this very reason, and I give thanks to the SBS and the leaders, Dr. Vincent Nathan and Dr. Freeman, who have helped touch a veteran in one way or another. Like George Lucas said, I would like to see some American graffiti, maybe an American flag across the side wall of the SBS buildings so that all students and faculty who walk by can say, that's the home college of our student veterans. That's where they continue to grow. Now, maybe that's far-fetched, but it's a beautiful portrait for me. And if it's not to happen, I want to remind us to appreciate the simple things. You see, I've been working so hard to get through the workload that vacations seem far and few in between. We had students come back from studying abroad, and London sounds nice. Paris sounds even nicer. I asked a colleague in the clinical psych program, when was the last time you took a vacation? And she says, I take one every day. I said, what? How? She says, my mother watches my kids while I'm in class, and when I leave school, I just hop in my car, and for that 20-minute drive home, I pretend I'm on my vacation. I said, yeah, me too. Me too. So let's not forget to breathe, because it's the greatest freedom that we still have. Today is my son's birthday, as it has been this day for the past 5 years, and will continue to be. He is a symbol I have to remain with purpose, and is the driving force that pushes me to excel. And with all that has been said and done, I came across a poem that I thought, wow, I should say this, because this poet he came across a disability, and his response to this disability was writing a piece of work called Invictus. Out of the black night covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me not afraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. That was by William Ernest Henley, who refused to let a disability stop him from doing what he wanted to do. So as I go on for the rest of the day to celebrate my son's life, I want to thank all veterans for the freedom we share. I planted a seed, and how I'm living today is God-given. May God bless you all, and Godspeed.
Please help me welcome Dennis McMillan.
I feel like some of those people that used to stand up and have to give a speech after Dr. Bambi Cardenas. Anthony, that was amazing. You know, I'm one of those guys that served a long time ago. I don't think much about my military service or being a veteran unless a day like this rolls around. And every once in a while, I'll see something in the paper or on the television that will trigger some of those memories. There was a Pan American that came out not long ago as a picture of a young Valley soldier, and he's holding that baby in his arms. And if you read that story, you realize that this is indicative of the sacrifices that Dr. Nelsen was talking about on the families of this area. He had never seen that young baby until he returned, born while he was serving a tour. I was just a little bit luckier than that. I was stationed on the West Coast and we were training for our deployment for Vietnam when my son was born. And they'd already told us that we wouldn't be granted any leave, and this old salt told me, he says, well, go talk to the chaplain. Sometimes he can work those things out. And he did. I got 2 days to go back home and see my son. It was amazing. I've been very fortunate to know a lot of veterans in my experiences in the military. And in my first job, after leaving college, I worked for the Veterans Administration. And it was a very interesting job. I had World War II veterans and Korean veterans and Vietnam veterans that would walk in, and we had very interesting conversations, and they had very interesting stories. And those stories gave me a set of perceptions about veterans and their service that I would like to relay to you and share some of my thoughts. The World War II veterans that came in and sat down across from me, they were coming in 25 years or so after their service, and they were looking for assistance with medical services and disability services and veterans pension claims. And their attitude, that whole generation amazed me. Tom Brokaw has written about that generation, and they have what I call an all-in attitude. They knew that everyone was going to serve in one way or another. And before it was over, 15 million men and women served. The sense that I got in talking to them was, in the early years, the ones that were there, there was some real concern about the future of the war and where they were going to be. They knew that they were there for the duration. They didn't know if it was going to last 1 year. They didn't know if it was going to last 10 years. They just knew that they were there and they had a job to do. And as I said, they told some interesting stories. I heard a man tell me that when he was serving as a door gunner on a bomber over Europe, he hated it when they flew over churches. And I didn't quite understand that, and then he explained that they were given direct orders not to bomb or shoot at churches, and that was really a problem in the sense that that's where the enemy would set up machine gun nests or snipers, and every time they got close to a church, they knew they had incoming fire. I talked to another serviceman that his sense of humor is what struck me about him. He was telling me about a bombing mission over Europe, and he looked out the window and the entire wing of the plane was shot off. And I thought he would go on to tell me about parachuting out and being captured or whatever, but his comment was, you know, that'll ruin your whole day. And of those 15 million that served, there are only about 1.5 million that survive today. And that population is going quickly. There's almost 1,000 each day that pass on. Another group of folks that I had the opportunity to visit with were from the Korean War, and that was often called the Forgotten War. And the numbers were really hard to manage about how to say, you know, how many people participated in that, because the majority of them were World War II veterans. Back then, the obligation for service was a 6-year obligation, and there was only a 5-year gap between the end of World War II and the start of the Korean War. So I heard a lot of these veterans complain to me about just getting home, just getting a house set up, just getting back into a job, and then getting called back out of reserve status. Those were difficult times for those folks. And then we moved on to the 60s when Vietnam came around. There were 2.7 million men and women who served in that war, and it lasted almost 10 years. And if you visit the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., you'll see 58,000 names on that wall. I went to Vietnam at a point in time when everything was really ramping up. It was right shortly after the Tet Offensive. That was kind of a shockwave for the American public. About 80,000 communist troops attacked in a surprise attack celebrating the Lunar New Year for Vietnam. In the year that I was there, Lyndon Johnson stepped down as president, and President Nixon came in and initiated plans to start drawing troops down immediately. And I think that was pretty much in response to the public opinion. My experiences there were probably not too different than most others that were in there, and I'd like to share some of those with you. The thing that I remember most getting off the plane in Vietnam was the heat. The heat and humidity was just oppressive. I can remember one day walking on our base over to what we called the dispatch shack, and they had a thermometer on the outside of that building, and the thermometer on that day said 119. And there were a lot of days when it was 110 or 15, and I guess we finally got used to it. I remember the monsoons. When that season hit, everything changed dramatically. I grew up in the Texas Panhandle, and we had about 18 inches of rain annually where I grew up. And during the monsoons, you'd have 18 inches of rain in a single day, and that went on for weeks. I don't know how we survived that. I remember the food. In the chow hall, I was amazed. We had great food. I'll never forget having a Thanksgiving dinner with real turkey and dressing. That was amazing. But when you got away from the base, food became a little bit of an adventure. We were eating sea rations. Sea rations is a term that the military created for a canned food, and the rumor was that we were eating sea rations left over from World War II. When you opened up a case of sea rations, everyone kind of scrambled around to try to find something that was pretty good. The most sought after one was one that we called Beanie Weenies. It was kind of a pork and bean and wiener combination thing that was somewhat edible. The least favorite one was a can of something that was lima beans and ham chunks, and I can't repeat the name that we used for that one. I've always felt fortunate that I came back in one piece with all my parts and some sanity, but I can remember some close calls. There was a time I was driving a deuce-and-a-half truck hauling some supplies from our base to a detachment that was a ways off. And when I got near the camp, I got into a convoy of earth-moving equipment that was part of a road project. And as I made the turn in a road and started up a hairpin, I heard a horrible explosion. And I could see behind me that something had gone off back there. I found out later that the person in the vehicle behind me had gone over a landmine. And they had a way of constructing their landmines so that they had an incremental trigger effect. Each vehicle that would go over it would press it down a little bit more and a little bit more. And I was only a couple of vehicles away from the trigger point on that. The young man that drove over that, I mean, in one sense it was fortunate. He was on a very large piece of heavy earth-moving equipment. It had tires on it about 10 feet tall. It blew off the front tire, and I know he suffered a concussion. He lost a significant portion of his hearing, but he survived. And I think about how close that event could have been me. You know, and since my time in the service, this country's fought wars in Grenada and Bosnia and Somalia and Iraq and Afghanistan and then back to Iraq. I want to end with a little bit of a story about a little bit of good news. I saw this on the news the other day. There's a company that does specialty advertising, and they will, free of charge, create a vinyl banner for families to post at their home to welcome home their husband or their wife or their father or their mom. And what was really sad about this particular story is they were interviewing a young lady who was hanging that sign out in front of her home to welcome home her husband. And the sad part was that was the third time that she had hung that sign. So hopefully she won't have to do that again. I started out saying that, you know, I don't focus a lot of time, a lot of thought about my service, but I think that's kind of indicative that, you know, we tend to forget and we tend to let things slide. But I want to challenge each of you to take the information that you've heard today and turn that situation around. Be more attentive. We all need to pitch in and do our part. We owe a tremendous debt to a lot of people that have gone and sacrificed it in so many ways. And I challenge each of you to step up to the plate and help out with that situation. Thank you.
Please rise for the honoring of the fallen as UTPA Color Guard Cannon Team renders one round following with taps.